In case you missed last week's video, we got the plumbing and electrical rough-in process mostly finished, along with some interior framing work. And in this week's video, I'm going to talk about the process of getting that exposed rafter tail and soffit area looking better, plus some prep work for insulation. First though, we needed to tie up a few loose ends from earlier in the build process. So as you might remember from the roof framing video, we weren't exactly sure what the final design of this center section on the back of the house was going to look like, so we only partially sheathed the wall in this area. And over the month or so since the framing was finished, this back wall was the one area where water was working its way into the house, and now that the windows were installed, we really needed to get this situation fixed. And the fix was simple enough. We just removed the two short pieces of sheathing and reinstalled larger pieces, and we also taped those last few seams we hadn't gotten to during framing. Once that was done, we could move on to adding a second layer to the fascia board on this side of the house. And as you can see, there was basically no overhang in that center area, so little in fact that the corner trim would have been proud of the fascia board. And I considered a bunch of options here, including adding on some rafter extensions to kind of further bump out that roof area. But after chatting with our architect Rick Caseby, we felt like the solution that would look the most intentional would be to just add an additional layer of fascia, as it would keep the same basic roof line. And after adding the second layer of fascia, we also added a strip of plywood and roof sheathing on top of the new fascia board and taped that seam to keep the roof system nice and watertight. Also, I should mention that this whole roof overhang situation was mainly due to the size limitations placed on us by our HOA, but the building plans we have available for the not-so-tiny house have a much more elegant roof design, since we're assuming you won't have those same constraints. And these build plans are available for purchase for $99, which I think is a bargain for these types of architectural plans, and I'll link to the plans in the video description below in case you're interested. With the overhang dealt with, we could move on to getting the soffit area prepped for paint, which we wanted to get done prior to roofing since it'd be a lot easier to paint the fascia without the drip edge installed. The first and most important task on the to-do list for this area was adding soffit ventilation, so that fresh air can make its way from the soffit up to the ridge vent, which will help keep the space below the roof deck better acclimated to changing weather. And properly venting a roof has a bunch of benefits, including preventing excess moisture from building up, which can lead to condensation and mold growth on the underside of the roof sheathing. This ventilation also helps prevent the formation of ice dams, which are created when warm air inside the house melts the snow towards the top of the roof, which then refreezes when it gets to the bottom of the roof line and traps that water against the roof. And ice dams can cause premature shingle failure if not dealt with properly. And in case you're not familiar with this whole roof ventilation concept, this type of ventilation is usually required by code, and typically there would be ventilation built right into the soffit at the bottom edge of the roof line. But because we have this exposed rafter tail detail, adding the soffit ventilation here was a little bit tricky. Thankfully, our architect Rick came up with the idea of using these round aluminum soffit vents, which both look cool but also add the needed ventilation. Since I obviously wanted these holes to look consistent from bay to bay, I went ahead and whipped up a quick drilling template so that my hole spacing would be easily repeatable. And there was a little bit of variation between the rafter spacing, so I made the jig slightly undersized widthwise, and it was simple to visually center the jig once I was up on the walkboard. I first pre-drilled the pilot holes using my template for reference, and then I pulled out this beast of a joist drill equipped with a 4-inch hole saw to drill the holes. And I certainly could have used a standard drill here, but this joist drill was not only way more powerful, so it drilled the holes more quickly, but it also had a built-in clutch to keep the drill from breaking my wrists if the hole saw got bound up in the hole. Also, this particular hole saw arbor, which is made by Spider, features this awesome functionality for ejecting the plug after drilling the hole, and this was a huge efficiency boost here. And this isn't sponsored or anything, I just love this particular hole saw, and I'll link to it in the video description below. Alright. Once the holes were drilled, I went ahead and did a little finish prep work, giving the surfaces a quick sanding to clean up any rough edges, and then I caulked the seams. And this caulk made the whole assembly look a lot more finished, but it wasn't only for aesthetic purposes. This caulk also served to help air seal these areas, and because of this, I definitely erred on the heavier side when applying the caulk and used a high quality exterior rated elastomeric sealant. In addition to caulking the seams, we also went ahead and filled all of the screw holes since this fascia board will be visible in the finished house. To fill the holes, we used this 2-part epoxy putty from Total Boat called Fixwood, which is a waterproof marine grade putty, and it was great for this application. To use the putty, we mixed up a small amount, just enough so we could use it all within about 5 minutes, which just kept it from starting to cure before we got it applied. We pressed the putty into all the screw holes along with any other problem areas like large knots, and the putty needed to cure for about 6 hours before sanding. We just continued to work our way around the house, drilling holes, sanding, caulking, and filling any imperfections with putty, and thankfully my buddy Eddie was on hand to help with this process, and we got in a pretty good rhythm with me drilling the holes and then running inside to install the insulation baffles, which you'll see later, while Eddie followed behind me with the rest of the finish prep work. As you can imagine, this was a pretty slow and tedious process, and I can tell you that my shoulders were pretty much toast by the end of this first day after holding that joist drill all day. The process for drilling the holes was the same on the left and right ends of the back side of the house, but obviously with no roof overhang in that center bump out, things were a little different in that area. Rather than just being drilled into the blocking, the ventilation holes also needed to be drilled through the fascia in this area, and because of that I downsized to 3-inch vents here. This also meant that I was drilling through 3 layers of 2x material here, 4.5 inches of material, so this was a ton of work. I also needed to create a new jig for this area and ended up having it reference off of the top edge of the roof, and this ended up working really well. I put the top edge of the vent right at where the bottom of the 2.5-inch drip edge we'll be using here would land. I also want to mention how essential this walkboard setup was for this whole process, and it made our work a lot more efficient and, more importantly, more safe. And the ladders we were using were both equipped with leg levelers, which made setting everything up on this uneven ground much easier. Anyway, I continued on drilling the rest of the holes in this section, and after about a day and a half of work, we finally got all of the holes drilled. Alright, we finally got all the holes drilled in these exposed rafter tail areas. That is a huge relief. That was a lot of freaking holes, so super glad to be done with that. The last thing to do before getting to painting this whole area prior to roofing is going to be filling in underneath this little area in the gable end overhang. Basically, it's the same deal as where we added the extra layer of plywood in this exposed rafter tail area. If we didn't add another layer of plywood there, the roofing nails would fire through. You'd see that in the final house, and obviously that wouldn't look very good. So we're just going to basically cut out a couple little strips of plywood to kind of nail up underneath there, and then we'll be ready for paint. Once we got the additional layer of plywood added on the underside of the gable end overhangs, the outside surfaces were prepped and ready for paint. That said, since I was going to be spraying the paint, I needed a method of keeping the overspray from getting all over everything inside the house. And after thinking about it, I realized the insulation baffles, which we needed to install between all of the rafters anyway, would be the perfect solution. Since most of this house will have cathedral ceilings, these baffles will help create a pathway for air to travel from the soffit vents to the ridge vent, and this area would otherwise be blocked by the insulation which will be installed between the rafters. These baffles were pretty easy to install and just needed to be stapled in place. That said, this was still a whole heck of a lot of stapling, and rather than hand driving the hundreds of staples needed here, I pulled out my Aero T50 AC electric stapler, which was perfect for this task. I used 3/8 inch Aero staples and just made sure the baffles were pushed all the way down to the top plate to provide as much airflow as possible here. And these particular baffles had this accordion section that allowed them to flex around this transition, which made installation a little easier. And I just continued adding the baffles throughout the rest of the house, and just a note, I only added the first row of baffles here to prevent overspray, but I did need to add a second row of baffles to get the air all the way up to the roof ridge, which I'll show a little bit later. Anyway, once that was done, it was on to one of my least favorite jobs, painting. Thankfully, I was pretty well equipped for the job and used an HVLP sprayer, which was great for getting into the tight inside corners of that soffit area. Since I was painting bare wood here, I first applied a coat of Total Boat Topside Primer, which is a marine grade primer designed for undercoating enamel paints. And as you can see, this primer sprayed really well with no thinning and covered the bare wood in one coat, which is no easy task on southern yellow pine. I followed up with 2 coats of Total Boat Elixir, which is a water-based enamel paint, and I used this paint on my shed project over the summer, and it's held up extremely well, so I figured I'd go with it again on this project. Thankfully, I got this soffit area painted just in time as we had a decent amount of snow a few days later, and we've been getting a ton of snow and rain here over the last few weeks, and it's been really good to know this area was sealed up prior to getting the shingles on. Anyway, with the paint on, we were ready for roofing whenever the weather finally cleared up, and while we waited, we continued getting the house prepped for insulation, starting by getting the rest of those insulation baffles installed. Also, I'm sure some of you will ask why I didn't just go with spray foam in this roof so I could skip all of this venting, and it was mostly because I didn't want to deal with the mess and the expense of spray foam inside the house. Instead, I'll be using rock wool in the roof and exterior walls, along with rock wool's safe and sound soundproofing insulation in the interior partition walls to keep the noise transfer between the rooms to a minimum, which I think is really important in a house this small. That said, I will be using closed cell foam on the underside of the house, since the foam will be able to both insulate the floor system as well as air seal and vapor seal the underside of the house. But just to give you an idea, the closed cell foam will cost about double what the same amount of rock wool would have cost there. Anyway, another thing to check off the to-do list, and something I didn't get to during the electrical rough-in process that a lot of y'all asked about, was running an Ethernet cable from our main house to this tiny house. And I had considered just trying to extend our Wi-Fi network out here, which I think would have worked, but I figured that since I already had the trench dug, I might as well run a cable out here as another option. I used Cat 5e shielded Ethernet cable, which is rated for outdoor exposure, and I ran the cable through the trench, making sure to space it as far from the electrical wiring as possible to avoid any interference. From there, I just drilled a hole through the bottom plate on the back wall and ran the cable up from underneath the house. I also stapled the Ethernet cable in place between the studs and along the bottom of the floor joist with my Arrow T59 staple gun, and these staples are specifically designed for this type of low voltage wire. With that, the house was ready for roofing, which I'll cover in next week's video, and we're one step closer to being ready for insulation, so I think that's where I'm going to call it for this week's video. Alright, hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. As I mentioned, next week's video is going to be on putting the shingles on this house, which was a lot of work, but we managed to get that done in 2 days. Since then, we've had no leaks, so that has been very promising. And then from there, we're going to move on to trim in the video after that. So if you don't want to miss the future videos, go ahead and get subscribed and ring that little notification bell. Also, I'll have links to all the tools and materials I use down in the video description below. And last, I want to give a huge shout out to all of my YouTube members and my supporters on Patreon. You guys are awesome. If you want to learn more about either of those programs, I'll have a link to that somewhere on the screen. All right, thanks for watching, y'all, and until next week, happy building.